Here we go, thick and fast with the mid lane bans. A blue side Azir ban is a really big pick of respect for Faker, because remember that Faker is the one who dunked Kuro's Azir with Master Yi a few years ago. A lot of people have had ironic things to say about Kuro's Azir, but the numbers bear out that he's 3-1 on the season, and Faker having to be involved in a ban against Kuro's Azir is already something that will cause a lot of people at home to smile and wonder.
Yeah, and so far not just the Azir being banned out in the mid lane, the Rise being taken away as well. Faker's Rise, very famous, alongside many other picks from Faker, but also a target against Braum for Tushin, and the Kha'Zix against Spirit.
Looking for a first pick Sejuani, no doubt, to ease Blank back into the lineup. His Camille jungle game is not up to LCK standard when we saw it last time out, but with all this fishing, with banning the Kha'Zix Braum on blue side, there is a big prize available, and it is being able to jump on the Galio for SKT. Now, Galio has counted against them the 2 times they played it this season. It's a favorite for Kuro. You can't take the scaling Azir matchup. Interesting to see if Kuro just jumps back on the Corki, looks for a farm lane, or if we see something a bit more spicy from the Afreeca Freecs mid lane.
Yeah. We saw Faker playing some of his Galio recently. It's been kind of hit or miss for me. He's getting caught looking sometimes at the battle. He's not 100%. And he doesn't really get to carry too much on the Galio either. More of like an entire map carry instead of just winning straight up 1v1.
And that reality was something that didn't count against Faker last year at Worlds, because he had Huni in the top lane who had his faults, but winning lane, trying to use his mechanics, that was the way he played. And it makes sense for an aggressive player to have the Galio to respond first. But on SKT, with Tal not being able to fit in, with Untara having a terrible year so far, he needs a carry to play around on the Galio. You know what they do have, though, Valdez, is a hell of a lot of wave clear.
That they do. We got a Sivir over here at SpoTV. I'm getting worried about our image here, as we're known for fast and fun games, but drafting a Sivir generally does not lend itself to a short game, unless one team gets very far ahead.
Untara's best pick by far this season has been the Gnar, so being able to ease him back into the lineup with his 3-1 Gnar, the only champion he's picked victories up on is the Gnar in 2018, is at least comfort for SKT, and it's going to be Keen taking in the Gnar, the Gangplank matchup, which I think a lot of people at home will be surprised, but in Korea, starting from about halfway through last week, people are getting better at playing defensive around a Gangplank, getting through the awkward early laning phase. And we've even seen things as crazy as Gangplank's trying to solo kill Gnars yesterday. So anything can happen when it comes to this matchup. At the start of the season, seen as a counter matchup right now, closer and closer to maybe 55-45 or 60-40 towards the Gnar, but at least it is Untara on comfort. He needs the comfort, Valdez.
Yeah. It's part of the reason why we see oftentimes Riot doesn't like immediately bring in hot fixes unless there's a big problem, is because on patches you got to give it time to breathe. You can't just bring in a new update the next week and say, oh, we messed up, this was too OP, because teams always figure out a way around things through bans or picks or through certain compositions, and that's kind of what we see in the evolving meta.
We also see in the second round on red side 2 jungle bans. The Jax jungle is targeted at Blank's recent solo queue performance. He's played a lot of the Jax, and the Camille obviously is something he's practiced, didn't work the first time out. Won't get a redemption game here either. So a lot of jungle focus in the bans. We see Nidalee banned because I think they're expecting Afreeca Freecs to heavily consider picking up the Zac here and as a denial pick away from SKT. Would understand the Wombo combo, the bouncy castle if they were to draft it, but they weren't able to actually produce results with the Zac last time, and it's the sort of thing that Spirit can counter jungle. So they're going to take away the Jarvan and be happy if there is to be a Zac locked in, because the Jarvan can play on the front foot in the matchup.
Yeah, very true. Jarvan kind of making its way through. The Gragas, we have seen it, is going to come in once again, this time for Blank. And now we do have Tahm Kench covered. Will be Tahm Kench for Wolf, another pick we often see him on.
The second time we've seen a jungle Gragas. Yesterday, Raze was blasted on the Gragas, but he had losing lanes and he was Gragas. Now they actually have good lanes. You're going to have Shove in the mid lane. Gnar against Gangplank is an early pressure lane for the Gnar. This is where Gragas will actually be able to breathe, and maybe we'll see the Gragas that actually has priority in the NALCS and other regions that didn't work out for Raze. That was a lot about the scenario. The scenario here is different, and support pick is going to be different as well. It's going to be support Orin coming in for Tucson, a favorite of Mada and some of our other spots, Key in particular. So when you look at the drafts here, the Orin is taken to give some secondary engage alongside the Cannon Barrage and mostly the Jarvan. Lot of physical damage on the side of Afreeca. Very fast turret damage with Corki and Ezreal as well. Whereas SKT have basically 4 tanks and a Sivir, which didn't work for them in game 1. Now this time it's Gragas, no Zac. It's the sort of comp where if it falls behind, it will certainly struggle. But there's so many early game tools that if SKT have been able to look at their mistakes in game 1, last time out against MVP, can actually tighten up their early game play, they have a whole lot of playmaking options to try to take advantage of their early game power.
Looking for Bang with a big performance on Sivir, but they will have to operate as one big unit here for SKT. Something they've had a lot of trouble so far.
Exactly. I would say that's the one thing that they have not been able to do is play as a 5. They were on completely different pages when we saw them attempt a very similar comp in game 1 of this series earlier this week. The sort of comp was very easy to say one threat and use that as a criticism point or blame Coma. This is the sort of draft that great teams can win with. You could see Kingzone or KT draft a comp very similar to this and pull it off. But for SKT, down in form, to go for very much all the eggs in the Bang basket late game to carry is very risky, Valdez. Much more diversified portfolio for the Afreeca Freecs. They've also been in much better form. Is the form going to count? Is the form actually going to matter? Because at the end of the day, every time you look at SKT, you wonder, have they hit rock bottom? Is this the time they turn it around? SKT fans will hope today is the day.
Big game number 1 to make an impression on everyone here between SKT and Afreeca to see who will take the lead in the series. Well, no secret, both of these teams have huge amounts of fans. We are entirely filled up here. Every seat is taken, obviously sold out in the Nexon Arena.
And pour one out for patch 8.1. We're finally going to have the end of this opening 2018 season patch. This is our last match on 8.1 before we roll into week 4 and patch 8.2. Hopefully bring us bounties of new items galore and less relic shields. Don't see relic shield on Keen as a start. We saw it in our first series from Smeb. This is still when there is the quest shield available because we are on patch 8.1, so you could understand it on the gangplank for parlays, but won't be starting with it at least, as Kura's starting with the push, as much as he can do.
Wow, look at his call, too. Saying, okay, well, this is a farm lane. I know you're not going to kill me. I'm Corki versus Galio. Might as well just take the call, try to get even farther ahead.
Some advanced wards for both teams. You'll see there is a ward on the Raptors here for Blank's bot lane start. We talked about it a bit in Champ Select, but if you watched yesterday's games, Kongdu's series in particular, you remember that Raze had no fun against Kingzone when he tried to run the Gragas, and we talked about losing lanes in a jungle that can be invaded. That was a skirmish jungle. That was Rengar as the matchup at the time as a bit of a struggle. This time it's going to be Jarvan who can invade, but the lanes are a lot more comfortable. Faker will eventually be able to shove and move away as the Galio. Gnar early has priority on the gangplank. So it's not going to be Gragas battle warded as much as in that matchup, unless things go really awry for the side of SK Telecom T1.
Cannot wait for the team fights.
Damn, that's a lot of books. SKT have been cramming, Valdez.
Oh, the books.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa. Four in a row.
Yep, they've all been open. They're reading every single note. They're perusing over everything. At some point, Untara should just abandon and gone straight for a spellbook himself. But we're going to see some sick teleports coming off at some point. Good luck with the play-by-play. I'll be sitting over here laughing.
I'll handle it. I got this.
6 and
I'm
6.
Confident.
In 2017 between these two teams. 52% was the stat that SKT versus Afreeca Freecs towards Afreeca. So the only org that actually has a head-to-head lead over SK Telecom T1.
So the summer wildcard match, too, that SKT was able to win 2-0. It's funny to see SKT down at 4th place at that point.
Trying to spot out for the early turret dive, and that Gragas is very adept at. With the build that he has here, expect a lot of body slam flashes because of the reduced flash cooldown. Probably not going to see those summoners change. It's just about playmaking for Blank.
It's a good idea. I mean, he knows his position on the team. The whole point of picking the Gragas. Just going to get a lot of these small Raptors here. No help from the mid laners as they're both back at the base. And so, a bunch of camps stolen away from Spirit.
And playing around pressure really well. Blank was not able to do this in his last series, and it's a change in adage from SKT, at least in terms of priority. We already mentioned a couple of times. It is one true threat in the late game, but because the lanes win early, it allows Blank to play his more traditional style, which was a lot about counter jungling. He was known as the closer because he would watch in game one, judge on the enemy pathing, and then play aggressively around the enemy tendencies. Very difficult to do when you're starting game one, but if you actually draft strong lanes, which SKT have not been doing, they have not drafted 2 winning lanes very regularly in the spring season of 2018 so far, it does allow Blank to, with much lower risk, try to make those invade plays.
We're taking an extensive look at the bottom lane. I'm not sure why exactly. Gathering Storm has been taken by Faker and Kramer this time around. So 2 members on the Rift that have taken that.
And Scorch not going to turn the matchup. Speaking of turning matchup, Spirit's coming for a journey top. He's only level 3, notice.
Interesting, the flash shield trying to land the slow on in, and that's going to be first blood. Handed on over to Keen up in the top side. A very easy gank is what it looked like for them.
Yeah, the flash W was actually a great decision from the Jarvan, because the only way that Nara gets away from that gank is to flash the flag and drag, so why not open up with a slow guarantee the kill? Untara may hold on to his flash, but good job by Spirit, who'd been counter jungle, was a level down, but there was no turnaround as Blank wasn't in position for the counter gank.
The woes of Untara so far. Everybody knows it that's been watching SKT. There's a reason why they were playing so much Tal up in the top side.
Which seems insane, right? Tal played in EUCS and then was starting for SK Telecom T1 with Untara, you know, the player that a lot of people thought was hard done by not to go to Worlds over Huni. A lot of people were calling for him to go there instead, but have not been vindicated by Untara's play so far in the 2018 season. We'll see a replay here before I recount some stats for Untara. Again, flashing over EQ is how Untara lives, so give him nothing to flash over. Smart decision by the veteran Spirit. But Untara's laning phase this season has been a disaster, Valdez. No real way to sugarcoat it. He has the worst goal difference at 10. His CSD at 10, lowest of all top laners. CS per minute, lowest of all top laners. His CSD at 15, lowest of all top laners. And even though he's played, well, I'm still going. Even though he's played
more?
4 games of Gnar, a GP game, and a Maokai, he has lowest DPM. So even though he's been in Gnar matchups where he's just auto-attacking people to get DPM, he still has the lowest DPM. So to say he's been poor, to say there was a good reason to play Tal, is an understatement.
Yeah. Well, you kind of laid it down there on the line for sure. You got to wonder what exactly is the reason, right? After losing Huni, you have to think, like, Untara's thinking in his mind, hey, I'm going to be the starter now. He should gain more confidence from that. But it seems as if he's lost confidence over time.
And it's kind of well known just around the League of Legends scene that Koma always saw a lot in Untara. He chased him when he was not playing after he had stepped down from CJ and had 2 accounts in the top 5 of solo queue. He always thought highly of the player. And I think there was obviously that big debate over who should go to Worlds. They went with Huni for laning phase. Untara was a reliable laner. He played a lot in summer. He certainly wasn't a liability for this team. So there is always the chance that another series away, a bit more of an adjustment of mentality, he could return to being capable. Will he ever be Khan? No. Will he ever be Smeb? No. But can he at least go even against some of the best top laners? History would say yes. But finding that confidence was something that took a long time for Blank. It took a long time, might take a long time for Untara, and it's something they need because SKT with a lineup like this is saying, we need the experience. We cannot have rookies because the shot calling has also been a significant problem for SKT. It's not just the laning phase.
I would have to agree. Another focus from some of the haters of SKT. I wouldn't really call them haters, but people who are kind of disappointed by the results of SKT so far are pointing fingers at Bang as well, saying he's not playing as well, not getting his picks, not really being as crisp as he used to be. But you look at a composition like this, they're playing everything around Bang on the Sivir. They draft 4 other tanks and say, okay, you do the job. Seems like SKT as a whole still has a lot of confidence in their AD carry.
And I think when it comes to SKT, if you're asking me what my read is, I think they're in a bit of an identity crisis. They've got a very different lineup to the past. They don't have Duke. They don't have Huni. They don't have someone who can be, Marin most famously, a pressure valve in top. They have a role play, which is fine. It's not necessarily a problem. It's something you can play around. So more carry on Faker, right? Well, the meta does demand champions like Galio. You need to lean on Bang to be the carry, but Bang hasn't been consistent. His Ezreal this season has been great. His other champions have let him down. So then you say, okay, well, what else made SKT strong? And that was, of course, their ability in the mid to late game to basically win every time. They could be in any sort of a gold hole and be able to come out with it with smart shot calling, play around the Baron, those trades where you take 3 members down bot lane to gank one of these top laners, Baron is instantly taken, and from there they win the game. We're in kind of a weird spot where Baron is pretty underpowered when it comes to closing games. SKT versus Jin Air, of course, the great example of that, 6 Barons, and the game couldn't end. With the game state where it is now, a smart move, a Baron against the flow of play, doesn't win you the game, doesn't necessarily always even inflict mortal damage on the enemy. So with all those things coming together, it's almost a perfect storm of SKT struggling to find something new. I think they can't lean on any of the things that made them strong in the past. And so far, they haven't invented something to get the most out of the roster they do have right now.
Yeah. Well, they still do have Koma. He hasn't been replaced, and Huni famously saying that he's the best coach he's ever worked with, one of the best in the world, if not the best.
There's no dissent on that. That is definitely the consensus of anyone that's worked for him. Is mid lane.
Okay, we have some action here. The flash coming on in, but stopwatch is the thing here. Can he flash Valkyrie is the question. Nice barrel there from Blank. Does clean up the kill. They're going to trade one back. Tushin coming in, though. He wants to get a little bit frisky here alone. 1v3. Getting a little bit too deep. Wolf trying to get that Devour on in. He's going to try to flash in here. Either way, it is going to be the kill. Even the cannon barrage coming on in from Keen cannot deter them from picking that one up.
Yeah, really unnecessary death from Tushin. The moment that he committed too far, wanted to use the Unstoppable. Still in there on patch 8.1 to get away from the CC. Doesn't work. Significant cost for the Afreeca Freecs. Nice gank assist by Faker. Blank looking so much more confident this game after his early jungling wasn't impeded. Kuro able to keep Galio in mid lane, so Faker's actually falling low as we go into the replay. We're going to assume he doesn't die. It'll be awkward if he does. But seeing the replay here, this was just straight off his teleport into lane. Blank already waiting, everything invested. But very nice layering coming through, and Galio did die. Okay, so it is awkward.
Okay. Yeah, it is awkward. Galio did die, but you notice that the Valkyrie was used, and I mean, every mid laner has been there where it's like, oh, I just want to clear the wave. It'll be really awkward to keep it in this spot. Let me clear it and try to get away.
Why don't we recount what happened? Faker tried to clear the lane, teleported a bit riskily, and then was taken down. Kind of falls in with the redemption, the not watching the screen. Faker's been surprisingly amiss in some of these awareness situations, and him falling, we're going to see the replay here. Look at this. Guess where his eyes were, Valdez? He was in the shop.
I mean, it was really close, right? That's unbelievably close at that point.
Sure,
the big
but
one.
It's, you know, it's not the first time, Valdez. So.
True. You don't have to take the risky recall like that. You don't have to.
So he dies there awkwardly in the same manner, but it's after a good play, so it's not necessarily something that propels Afreeca into a massive lead. They were able to cash in the cull very, very early. It was the first purchase. Already Trinity Force onto Kuro. Helped with the damage calculations there. Rite of Aegis opted into by Faker. A lot of disagreement on how to build the Galio. Needs some AP, and you inch it in somewhere. But I like the fact that the vision game has been better. Blank is pushing up wards to the Raptors. He's pushing up wards here. Now he's trying to turn on to Tushin again.
Yeah, Tushin getting caught here once again. 3v4 at this point in time. The Call of the Forge God does come in, but he can't hit it back. Blank though getting low. He does have a stopwatch and a Galio to keep him available. Kuro doing some significant damage with the Trinity Force you mentioned. Trying to get out of here alive is Blank now, but in comes Spirit trying to flag and drag. May have gone too far. Kuro taking so much damage. The pose there from the Galio at the end with the stopwatch. Now it's all up to Kramer. 1v4 at this point. Spirit also chasing. There's the Cannon Barrage. Trying to use that taunt to get that damage reduction, and it looks like all the low members of SKT get out alive.
SKT played that so well, using the control ward to get the maximum value out of the taunt that does damage now as well. Kuro too confident, face checking a brush they did not have vision on. Afreeca will try to get a turret out of this. They're going to get it very low at minimum.
Should be able to get it here. It's only Bang TPing in. It is 8.1 after all.
While it's a messy game, there's no blowout here. Afreeca Freecs 1,500 gold ahead. A lot of feel-good moments by SKT. A lot of old SKT mixed in with Afreeca making smart moves. Would have been just a terror to try to come up with betting markets for this game with SKT struggling and Afreeca being so good recently. Let's watch the replay. Tusen's again caught. Kind of with his hands in the cookie jar. Was looking for some vision. Then gets caught by multiple members. He's turned on to call the Forge Guard never completes. Then Blank falls low, and during this, multiple members of SKT are blinking health bars on a different day with their recent form. They would have thought this would be a triple kill out of nowhere. But Faker, look at how he plays this. There wasn't actually even a control ward in there. He was just able to juke around vision. The ward was placed afterwards. That time the stopwatch used. Love to see aggressive stopwatch use. Nobody dies, amazingly, after all of this. And picture in picture, we can see that SKT will take the first Drake of the game.
It looks like a Mountain Drake was picked up by them. So, actually, that's, yeah, it is a Mountain Drake after the Cloud Drake they took initially.
It's a second Drake. First Drake very early, as you can see.
Yeah. Blank did that at level 6, I remember. So they just got that right off cooldown.
So we kind of have to assess where the game is at. Corki now can rotate bot lane. No longer can Sivir take advantage of good recalls and try to push out Kramer, because there will be a jungler and also Ornn to relieve pressure. Does mean that Vision game can now begin truly, but with a much shorter map than usual, just a single turret down, and that is the mid lane here for SK Telecom T1. Corki versus Galio in the side lane means that Galio needs to use teleport and his ultimate to get a knock up in the top side. Still, they're going to make a play right now around the Rift Herald, so everyone can react to this, including Faker.
Tusen getting a good ward down here for some vision. Hasn't had the best early game.
We're definitely going to see a commitment here as Corki's coming up too. Use the package just for gap close.
TP behind though, and that Sivir ultimate blown. Trying to push them back. Now the TP is canceled, so they will fully engage. That's only going to knock up TK off the backside
Rift
here.
Herald is still staying leashed. It will stay leashed for a long time.
They could try to get it bursted down. It's going to leash back to SKT.
Still not resetting.
It's getting very close. There it is. So
Okay.
they forced the reset. Faker not coming in. Looks like he was bottom, was pushing.
Did use his teleport. That's turning on him.
They're trying to go in here. That's a tanky Galio. You do get the Cataclysm in trade for a flash, which is not bad.
It had some wards around the area to know that no one from SKT was going to relieve pressure, and it ends up being a cooldown trade to the advantage of Afreeca. So while it looked optimistic, two members, Kramer and Kuro, will eventually kill a Galio that only has a Rod of Ages and Ninja Top. He's only health tank, and also the resist coming through from the W. So smart move by Afreeca, even if it looked comical at the start.
Yeah.
Kuro's been the big investment banker this game. He is way ahead. He's got a CS lead on Faker, only of 3, but the cash in also means he's in a happy spot in the bot lane.
I mean, Afreeca's all about the cash, right? They got GP and Ezreal, double Kleptomancy, and then they got the call on the Corki, so they're just rolling in it right now. It's part of the reason why, even with the gold lead, or rather the kill lead, SKT is pretty far behind on gold at this point in the game.
A lot of jungle proximity coming through from Spirit, but the moments we've seen Blank, they've been very killer. That's the thing about Gragas. If he can get going, if he shows up with his ultimate for a skirmish, you can get a lot of value out of that. So even though Spirit has spent a lot of time being active, he's clearly been farming, or he has been ganking, because he's actually up in CS, even though he spent an extra minute 20 ganking. Lets you know that Blank has been trying to provide coverage. Hasn't changed anything in top lane. Like I mentioned, this matchup has been trending towards Gangplank with no change in patches. And now you're going very even in CS, if you're keen, and have the kill gold as well. So farm-wise, things good for the side of Afreeca Freecs. Kill-wise, SKT keeping it competitive, but the farm lead's just growing. It's now 3,000 gold lead for Afreeca.
Slowly becoming a big deal. Another ward spots the Rift Herald. SKT desperately wants to pick this up and get a turret for their own. They're down a turret in this game so far. He's gonna catch Spirit over here. So much CC, as you can see,
it's
on
all
the side of SKT.
It's all down now, though, so not having those ults makes it difficult for the tanks to be super relevant. No Gragas ult to interrupt any sort of a parade. So once again, the Rift Herald is delayed. Now you might wonder, why is Afreeca fighting so hard for Rift Herald? It's not just about the inherent strength of Rift Herald. Look at the comp SKT has. They don't have long range, 500 range Sivir, a Gnar as the only other ranged auto attacker. Cracking turrets with Rift Herald is one of the easiest ways for them to actually get on the board for a turret. So that's why Afreeca extra want to deny away the Rift Herald at the start.
Team Blank starts it again. Not sure if they will actually commit to it, but got him in the brush. Poor Shelly being pulled around by multiple people is just going to go back home. Frustrated once again.
Well, Afreeca Freecs so far, mission success in farming up with Keen, who hasn't gone Resolve Tree. It's not Grasp of the Undying. It's not against a Vladimir. It's the standard Kleptomancy that's still full power on patch 8.1. Kuro is, again, we've already mentioned, farmed up a Storm this game, and indirectly, massive gold leaders. They're trying to turn on Spirit.
Might be able to get this in here. The flash from Blank, and, well, they got all the CC in the world, as I said before. And down he will go. If they can engage onto someone, you're not going to see him move very much.
But because of the timer, they will not be able to get the Rift Herald quick enough, is my first indication. They don't even try to get the objective. So a single pick is good for the side of SKT, but they would have wished it was a minute or two earlier to actually get the Rift Herald that was their primary objective in the early game. Next Drake spawning, 35 seconds. Already they're going to be able to pile on a lot in a row, having gotten the first so early. See if Afreeca Freecs will actually put up resistance on the bot side. All their vision has been really circled around denying vision at the Rift Herald. That needs to be moved now. Baron is not going to be taken by SKT in secret. They are far too slow a Baron team, with only Sivir as damage towards the Baron. So we'll see if there's any sort of attention put from Afreeca at actually contesting what has been 3 Drakes so far for SK Telecom T1.
Look at the items here for Afreeca. They have 3 Trinity Force champions,
Yep.
and all 3 of them have it now. The Ezreal just pick it up after, you know, getting the Muramana finished up, and that's a pretty scary lineup if you're looking at the amount of damage that Afreeca has currently.
There's good Baron buff teams, and there's Afreeca this game, where if they get the Baron buff, they have poke and just delete turrets. Hopefully Tucson has Demolish in his Resolve tree to just instantly delete turrets with the sheer damage, and 4-1 and also the 1-3-1 are possible with a lineup like this, triple teleport, as we're speaking. So Baron buff going to be the primary objective for both teams. SKT to crack the defenses of Afreeca, and Afreeca just because, damn, they're insane with it.
Well, we have another Mountain Drake coming up here. Afreeca definitely taking a hard look at that one. We got a teleport coming in, though. Spirit wants to disengage, as it looks like it's Faker that's coming in. They want to get on top of Spirit, but you can see Tushin trying to help out. Nice knock up there. Not going to be able to get Spirit on the chase. Got a TP coming in from Corki, it looks like, from the base.
Very difficult for them to actually go through the Mega Gnar. They need the Mini Gnar transformation. Okay, Ontara now exhausted, so Afreeca moves up.
Now they want to go, the big one, hitting 3 members towards that Tri-Brush. And even the Galio poke doing a bit of a number to Afreeca, but you can see that SKT not too confident to push in here after taking that poke damage. And to add to that is True Shot Barrage.
And you know, we talked about the damage to turrets. Guess what? Turrets to Drake also, the damage to Drake also insane with triple Trinity Force this early in the game. Probably going to be Corki working on his Infinity Edge next. Compared to SKT, who we said have a slow Baron, Afreeca Freecs have an insane Baron. So coverage there from SKT going to be important. We return to normalcy. A Drake interrupts SKT's free farming of the Drakes. No 5-stack this game for SK Telecom T1. And now Afreeca Freecs need to start to cement the map. Orin and Jarvan are the true members that can really face-check SKT's lineup and put down vision. Anyone else, and then a pick will be on.
Well, we got Keen pushing in now towards this bottom turret. You'll notice that only 1 turret has gone down in this game. It's the mid one of SKT's. So had a nice bit of vision around that area because they take that out, but Keen's still not having as much luck pushing down here. And Tara holding his own so far.
We really want to see SKT's vision missions because they need the Baron. But as I've said it so many times, but Baron vision and taking a Baron is how they crack multiple turrets. The Baron power play for SKT, if it comes this game, will be insanely large because there's standing gold everywhere. Standing gold basically means stuff that's pretty easy to be picked up if something in the game changes. A Baron buff, suddenly the defense And the ability for a team with melee champions to push turrets just changes in an instant. And suddenly 3-4 turrets will be deleted off the map, or they'll roll down one lane. So to actually get the Baron, to start it, they need deep vision, they need picks. Right now, very shallow vision from SKT means they're just allowing Afreeca to continue farming.
Yeah, and so far after the Mountain Drake, it has been a farm fest. Next Drake is going to be Cloud, so there shouldn't be too much action around that one. You mentioned how this is basically the Baron game for both of these teams, but no team has made a big move towards it yet. They don't want to take the 50-50. They want to ride it out, try to get a pick.
It's all about catching Afreeca in transition. If they get there safely, then they're going to pick up basically every objective and clear every wave. This is a sort of spot where SKT can try and do some playmaking.
Ooh, Blank with the smite a little bit early there with Spirit. Oh, we got a great engage onto Kramer, who does flash. Re-engage him down. They're going to re-engage here. Blank getting low. Now at the same time, Faker's not as tanky as you would expect the Galio to be. He's going to be caught in the back there as he's trying to save Blank, but cannot do so. Now the rest of them on the run. Tushin thinking about another engage. He's not level 16, so no crazy or an ultimate cooldown yet. But a nice pick there for Afreeca. Yeah, if Kramer's flash was down, he would have been dead, and that would have been the right move. Kramer gets out of dodge, and then 3 Trinity Force members building damage are raining down on closest target. First Blank goes down, then Faker is the one that gets focused. Only one dies, but after this, Corki can rotate topside. SKT are outnumbered, and the objectives pile up for Afreeca Freecs. Yeah. We talked about the amount of damage. That's it there in practice at only 25 minutes. It's a pretty gross composition. Once we get to 6 items, these guys, I don't care how tanky you are, barrels will be critting. You will be dying. So let's see what SKT can do to fight against that. Kramer, 001, but him staying alive in that fight, so important. Gameplay's going for a big purchase. He's been sitting on a Ruby Crystal for a while. I guess he's waiting for a completed Sterix, I imagine. There it is. So now he's going to be more robust in the side lane if there is to be a bouncy castle enabled. Watch the replay. SKT think this is their time for the pick that leads to Baron. But how do you tie up an Ezreal for long enough? The answer is you don't. And then bang, he can't take free damage from Corki. No one can take free damage from 2 members on the bot side here either. Cannon Barrage was loaded in. The Gangplank teleports in, and now Kuro's sent into Untara's face. And there's no magic resist there, so goodbye, 3rd outer turret of the game. Notice what Corki did there. He went up top after the fight, took out the top tier 1, and then went straight back home, picked up the package, went bottom, and took the bottom tier 1. There's nothing that Nara can do against a Corki that's this farmed and has his package. So he just picks up 2 turrets for free, and Afreeca extend their gold lead to 5,500. A very comfortable spot for them right now. And we talked about SKT's need to act on their early game draft. It's not a bad draft. It's a specific draft that teams in Korea can play. That hasn't happened for SKT, and now you wonder, has their base damage just been outscaled? Afreeca seem to think yes. They want to catch a catfish, but he's got a friend. It's a Gull. He's going to go in here. He's going to be devoured up by Wolf, but look at that. In the Cataclysm, Wolf is kind of trapped here. Thankfully, he's got that time, the stopwatch there to get out, but he eventually goes down. And they just needed 1 pick. That's all they wanted, and they got it. And it's so smart because they pick onto someone, everyone disengages waiting for the Galio ultimate, and then you DPS Galio ult out. So it's respectful, but also intelligent from Afreeca. They're not going to start the Baron for now. Spirit will recall. They'll get control around the area. The next pick, though, that probably means Baron. They're playing it so intelligently right now. Afreeca, they're so balanced. They're not getting too aggressive. They're not playing it too passively, scared of the engage. It feels just right for them right now. And it's a lot of what we've been seeing out of Afreeca this season. A little bit more than last season. They look a little bit more confident overall as a team. They just seem to have more options. You know, the ability for Keen to go to this Gangplank and to have extra threats. Untara seems so necessary for him to pick up Gnar to paper over some of his flaws in the laning phase. With this multiple threat comp, making the Galio work on blue side, the first pick Galios, not working as a team for SKT. Even if it's a power pick for other teams, we haven't been convinced by SKT's ability to run it. And now you're just worried that with so much sheer damage on the side of Afreeca Freecs,
a very tidy early game for SKT might not mean enough.
So far, it definitely hasn't. That Cloud Drake that I said would be most likely ignored does get picked up because it's essentially a free objective for Afreeca. The extra movement speed will definitely help them around the map against the heavy engage from SKT.
Watching Afreeca here, just getting their shops in. Infinity Edge finally done. Kuro on his way to his second Zeal item. Jesus, he's going to be some sort of threat with a second Zeal item. You don't often see 80% crit on the mid laner, but that's what's happening. Gangplank himself, Phantom Dancer, and Infinity Edge is what you'd imagine we piece together with his next two items. SKT need a pick. It kind of needs to be Spirit so they can try to brute force down the Baron. They can tank it for days, but the speed is not high on the side of SKT.
Even then, it's really scary. Let's say you do get the Jarvan. You're still having barrels and missiles and mystic shots raining down on you from abroad, and you have Ornn always to threaten with a big knockup to secure a bunch of skill shots to hit your entire team as well. You got the flash engage, though. That's what they were looking for. They finally make it happen, but can they kill anyone? Finally, bang, does get one kill in the end. Here comes TK coming into the back line, has Faker with him. Chasing after Tushin, they get one kill onto the Corki. Do they turn onto the Baron? Where will they go from here?
They need the Baron desperately, so I think they have to at least start it. They jump onto it, start clearing out vision. Gangplank's going to teleport to the mid lane. There's still a lot of damage. SK Telecom pull away. They may be tanky, but they're not feeling strong enough to start the Baron in the face of the sheer damage from Afreeca.
Yep. Not a confident move there from SKT. They could have had the immediate teleport and stick right onto the Baron, but instead they decide against it. That means that they want to go for something else here. Perhaps these outer turrets that are still standing, but it was only one pick, and the Corki's going to be back in 5 seconds.
And he has teleport as well. If it was a no teleport wearer, then perhaps you could go for it. They're getting into kind of awkward territory where they need to roll the dice because of team comp. We're going to see the replay. Big play made by Faker. He does it himself so often, does it here. Ricochet finally does take down Kuro, and the Ricochets are going to be deadly this game. Not much tankiness on the side of Afreeca, but they're all so damn mobile. There's only a single kill, and then a disengage from the Afreeca Freecs. And SKT need to do it all again, this time without a flash on Faker.
Oh boy, not going to be easy.
Faker's gone burst build, by the way.
That he has. All AP.
Deathcap Void Staff, you'd imagine, for his last two items.
Notice he also has Exhaust. We were talking about all the damage that comes out from guys such as Gangplank, Corki, and Ezreal.
Theory there is that it's such a burst comp from SKT, there's going to be two huge threats, not three, when they're trying to get the burst, and if they can get a pick and get out during the exhaust window, that's kind of what they're hoping and praying for, because when you think of an exhaust target, usually it's a Fiora or a very obvious time to exhaust. Irelia, another one there, whereas on Afreeca, it's kind of whichever threat is closest.
Whatever you can click on. Faker's pretty good at clicking on stuff. Speaking on engaging, though, they want to get Keen, who does get out of there, in fact. And here comes Spirit, the three-man Cataclysm. They have a lot of room here now. Kramer over the wall, raining down on Faker in the front, but there's the Devour. Wolf with the ambulance coming in, trying to save his teammate. Will do so. Lots of low members, though, on SKT. Afreeca not going to go to the Baron just yet.
SKT can reload very easily. Faker can just take teleport, come back to the fight, so Afreeca doesn't get greedy around this. They'll return to the minion wave. Now they're on to Baron. There's actually no SKT vision in the area, so Blank hasn't recalled. They're starting to walk up. How much time do they have against this? Holy crap! It's gone!
It's gone, guys. You never even saw it, says Afreeca. And, well, Keen is going to have to pay for it with his life, but they're going to be okay to give him up. You saw how fast that Baron went down. That's one Mountain Drake and all that damage stacked up.
Or you blinked and didn't see it. It's almost like Baron was a rumor. It never even existed with how fast it was deleted by Afreeca's sheer damage comp. Ornn also has Zeke's Convergence, so that seems to be a bit of a flavor of the month item among Korean support players. We saw it in our first series after not being built by anyone since it was first constructed. When you have so many threats, it makes some degree of sense. Kramer has his Mega Trinity Force for just kind of stats all over the place. I guess he had 1,000 gold and Wasn't really feeling anything else.
Yeah. See that happen from time to time.
The Mega 24 is a really weird stat stick because it's so much just stuff that it's not going to be a sheer amount of AD like an Infinity Edge or something like that. Goes back, finishes his last Whisper, necessary to deal with the insanely tanky front line of SK Telecom T1. But man, they're trying to pull a replay of the Baron, but just died too fast. Sorry, guys.
Spot TV missed that one.
Yep.
Sorry about that. I mean, we only got it on screen for about 2-3 seconds, so it's almost as if it didn't happen. This game is so tense. You can tell, like, if SKT is going to engage, it's got to be real quick, like Faker getting a double taunt, and the follow-up engage has to be really on point, like no delay at all. Blank has to be there right away.
If Bang is not accounted for, though, he has inched together 4 items, probably going to be another damage item because armor is going to be pretty low on members that aren't Ornn and Spirit, and you're looking for ricochet damage onto the carries. You have to consider that, you know, 6-item Sivir, without any attention towards her, will just burst through the Corki, Ezreal, and Gangplank from Afreeca. So there's still a team fight where Bang free hits for long enough, 2 rounds of ricochets, and they do finish off the burst that Faker will be able to enact. But that requires Afreeca's flashes to be down, for them to be a bit absent-minded, and for them not to kill the first person. And no one is tanky. Blank may have a Warmogs, but no one is tanky to how much sheer damage is on Afreeca Freecs' side.
True. Yeah, that's the thing. Afreeca's going to have to stick around long enough for Bang to get in position to do that damage. And that's why it really does come down to the engage once again. They have to find someone in the front, or maybe Spirit dives a little bit too far forward. He's been very loose on his engages. You know, he's going to go and he trusts his teammates to be right there behind him. I'm not saying what he's doing is bad. It's just he's getting quite aggressive on the Jarvan because he knows that he can trust his team to be right there.
You wonder if this insistence on the low threat comp from SKT is necessary or a coma adage, because we've seen so much of it, or not used for zoning.
We don't see that often enough, actually, in Korea.
Especially on 8.1 when the cooldown is almost 0.
It's pretty ridiculous. I mean, it's already 1/4 gone, the cooldown.
But SKT really do insist on these low threat comps that can be worked, that has worked before. But, you know, Untara on a more true carry. Will that be an experiment if Gnar is no longer available? Galio not being available, very likely red side ban in game 2, will mean that Faker will be on more of a carry. You can kind of understand the frustration for Coma, because it feels like whichever way they go, the champion pools and also the games are not corresponding with how SKT have often won in the past. Their most famous strategy was Lulu mid and Bang running around getting pentakills on Lucian and Ezreal and all sorts of carries. So traditionally have they been a low-threat team. But we're in League of Carries now, as you can very much see.
It's nice in a way. It's cool to see the 2 different types of compositions going head-to-head. Although I wouldn't be complaining if Untara was playing Fiora or something like that. The Riven we've seen many times against the Gangplank. Just not this time. Not Untara, unfortunately.
A lot of delay from the side of SKT. Massive wave clear. So despite the turret damage, it gets more difficult as you have to overextend for those inhibitor turrets. Only 1 inner turret left on the map for SKT. We're watching it on our screen now. Probably just wait for the minion wave. Might see another Ornn ultimate.
Faker doing a nice job cleaning that up. He's got Bang right next to him, too. Tushin's going deep to try to clear out this vision. Obviously, that's the last person they would like to engage on, SKT, so it makes sense for him to be up in the front, clearing the vision.
And Keen is fully dead. Came back, sold his stopwatch. Didn't get to use it. No pirate pose this game. But he does have an Infinity Edge, so I'm sure he's feeling pretty good about that.
Yeah.
Untara has gone for, you would say necessary, I would say unnecessary tank build here. I think busting as the Gnar is the right way to go, building damage yourself, a Phantom Dancer and other damage, and actually being a threat, because now Gangplank will run over Gnar, and Gnar is just another tank, and they already have plenty of those in a team fight, so was kind of looking for Gnar to at least build threat. We've seen Hurricane Gnar, Phantom Dancer Gnar, Rapid Fire Cannon Gnar. Here we just get Tank Gnar. Turret's going to go down.
That's 2 ultimates used to try to get the turret. You can see the counter engage attempt by Blank, but they get away with another turret, and Afreeca backs off with more gold in their pockets. 12,000 gold ahead right now for Afreeca over SKT.
Yeah, they're decked out. They are really supremely powerful. Orin items only going to help the gold lead. In 15 minutes, when this comp is strongest from SKT, they weren't able to actually get the picks. We didn't see proactive use of the Faker's ultimate because he kind of had to use it defensive most of the time. Or Afreeca were very respectful and disengaged. And now there's just limited ways for Afreeca, for SKT I should say, to play these fights. 6 items onto Bang means they do have a chance that he can decide a fight. But if he's assassinated, there's just no damage left on his team. They will just lose from there. So needs to be perfect execution from a team that has struggled to have perfect execution, even decent execution in Spring 2018. Afreeca putting down the control wards, getting the control around Baron. Baron spawns now. And SKT with a wombo comp don't have vision to make the wombo happen.
Saw Keen more than 5,000 gold ahead of Untara in the top lane. About 70,000, or rather 70 CS, and obviously the Klepto is helping him out. But we'll see if Bang can pull out his inner Teddy and actually just fountain laser his way. Hasn't sold his boots just yet, but I'm sure we're getting close. Or an ultimate, they want to go in on this one. That's 3 members lined up in a row like bowling.
Oh, baby!
See you later. Down goes Gragas, make that 2, and Faker's gonna go down here too. Cool pose, man, but it's not gonna matter. Make that 3 on the back. A perfect engage from Afreeca, catches SKT off guard, and now that's gonna be Baron.
And the problem with lots of tanks is that you can reach items like this and then there's no tanks, Valdez. Unfortunately, they die to sheer damage. You don't need all of them on the Baron. You got plenty of damage with just 2. They're gonna roll in, they're gonna try and bring up the minion wave in mid. They're gonna have to get the top lane minion wave. Minion wave's not in great position, but you talked about those loose ultimates. You can be pretty fast and loose when you have this much damage.
It's
Watch Blank.
so
Watch Blank's health bar. It's gone. 3 seconds. Nope, 2 seconds.
Yeah.
He is dead. Faker has gone largely AP. If his W is not being used, he dies real fast. Like you say, the pose, 8 out of 10. Very nice pose, but fortunately poses don't win you games. Baron crests the first inhibitor. They'll go back. They continue to spend. They also have a greater cap on their damage because they can have the Orin items to evolve their power. And SKT back to the drawing board again.
Yeah, the more I look at this Afreeca comp, it's pretty disgusting. I mean, it's all-out damage plus 2 perfect engagers
Kuro just
for 8.1.
baited the Gnar ultimate, by the way.
Yeah. That he did. Well, we're going to have...
Who's ganking who here?
Well, Wolf and Blank going on a bit of a vacation over here. Trying to come on in. We got Gragas going in. A big, nice knock-up. Isn't going to matter, though. He gets a taunt in the back line, but you can see Kuro getting low, and now it's going to be Faker's turn to get low. Wolf just a little bit too out of position. Keen in the back line. Gets on top of Bang. That's going to do it. Make that an almost ace. And there you go. Only the Gnar gets away with full health as the rest of SKT melts.
Losing streak's going to continue here for game 1 at least. Afreeca Freecs updated. They've got their new roster. They've got the comps that work in this particular draft. SKT had some moments in the early game. It was much improved. It was cleaner, but cleaner might have beaten MVP. Cleaner is not good enough to beat Afreeca Freecs, who want to continue their 5-game winning streak. They continue it right now.
Nicely done. Took 42 minutes, a little bit longer than we've expected here at SPO, but they took it, as I said before, not too aggressive, not too passive, just right. They hit their 6-item spike, if you will, and then SKT lined it up for them, and Afreeca hit it out of the park.
Drafting scaling against a lot of teams in Korea can really rip you down. Kingzone Dragon X, you don't draft scaling against them. Afreeca Freecs were able to draft scaling and win comfortably against SKT. It felt like Blank was on the same wavelength as his solo laners. It was a better performance, but they couldn't push the envelope early. That's when Afreeca Freecs was respecting the hero's entrance, no value out of that big ultimate. And then we crested the point where 4 to 5 damage items were on 3 members, and SKT, they just couldn't hold up.
You know, they could not bang, not able to get to the point where he could be Fountain Laser, try to sit behind turrets. All the SKT members leaving the booth very early on. You don't see that too often. Usually the coach comes in, has a nice little chat, but everybody is just leaving the booth right away. You see them walking there, not wanting to stay in there. They want to get as much talking time in the back room as possible.
I think it's smart, you know, when they're in this sort of a free fall, this would be 5 in a row if they lose the match. The first time in the LCK era they've ever lost 5 best-of-3s in a row. Don't show your emotions on stage. I'm sure there's going to be stern words. We're still unsure if we'll see a roster change going into Game 2 with so many players that can sub and flex. Wolf could be in the jungle for all we know. He's still playing it in solo gear, but they're going to keep the tempers flared, at least in front of the cameras. Who's to know what's happening behind them? We know how this game went, 42 minutes, but SKT had good control. The early game was better. This was better from SKT. They had a lot to develop, but unfortunately for them, they still have to clean everything up.
So guys, we are gonna take a bit of a break, but we have a special thing in the break, so pay attention, guys.